Everyone throws around the words hot take these days with the famous meme that we all know and love. So today I'm going to be actually giving you some of my hottest takes from the Pokemon anime. And not just general opinions that we see a lot, but actual hot takes that people probably won't agree with. So let's get into it, and I hope you disagree with me. So I'm starting off pretty hot here, I think. Maybe not to the hardcore anime fans, but to the general audiences. I constantly hear this outcry to learn who Ash's dad is. Why hasn't he shown up? And my take is that I do not care. I don't care if we ever see Ash's dad. I never cared that he didn't show up. We didn't need him. There was not really any benefit to having him turn up. Sure, we could have crafted a cool storyline where he does show up, but Ash was fine without him. He had father figures all along his journey, from Professor Oak all the way up to the main dad himself, Kukui. Ash's dad went to get Max Repels 10 years ago and never came back. Next, maybe not a hot take anymore, but this definitely was back in the day. Constantly people would say TRACEY is Ash's worst companion ever, all because he replaced Brock. Well, I think TRACEY is a really great character. He has some fantastic skills and qualities and offered a lot in the Orange Islands. I really wish we saw more of him travelling around with Ash. Ash's first ever Pokemon League gets so much stick for how it ended, but I actually think the Indigo League is fine. Sure, it could have been a lot better, but this was Ash's first ever league. It was never going to be perfect. We were robbed of a proper battle between Ash and Richie, yes, but I'll happily sit and watch that if it means we get the fantastic development that Charizard went through after disobeying Ash centre stage at the League Conference on live TV. This pushed Charizard's storyline even further, so that's one thing I can be grateful for, but yeah, the Team Rocket shenanigans weren't needed. The Johto saga gets so much hate for its endless fillers and boring episodes, and I'm here to tell you that it isn't that bad. Granted, you need to look past some of them fillers and heck, even skip them if you want, but I feel arguments like that take away from so many great and memorable Johto storylines. We had so much, pretty much every gym leader came with their own story and fantastic battle. They pushed the whole gym challenge further compared to Kanto. We got Team Rocket focused arcs, we got Ash's Pokemon getting some great development. I think Johto did Ash really well. It's Misty and Brock where it loses focus. I think it's easy to say Johto is bad because of filler, but there is so much outside of the filler that you can enjoy. Next up we have Pokemon movies, and I don't know if this is a hot take or not. It depends who you are, I guess. But after the first 3 or 4 movies, Pokemon movies were terrible. The first few actually tied into plot lines in the main anime and felt like they actually meant something. But after that they were just bland and generic, showing off new mythicals or legendaries. Most of them are just so forgettable. Granted, some of them have some great moments, like the Latios and Latias one and a few more, but most of them are just there to promote the new games and new mythicals. I actually think the rebooted Ash for Pokemon I Choose You was a fantastic idea, and that trio of movies have all been really enjoyable because we can disassociate with our Ash and just enjoy a new journey. Alright, this one is a bit of a touchy subject, and that is the Ambipom Release, famously known as one of the worst decisions that the Pokemon anime made. For me, not so much. I don't want to say I don't care because I agree that it was a bit of a pointless release. I do love Dawn's Togekiss, but why did they build up Ambipom the whole series to do this? However, I think this episode is cool as hell. I love me some ping pong, and I think Ambipom was perfect for it, so the way the release was actually handled I think is fine. You could see how determined Ambipom was to play ping pong and how hard it was training, but I completely understand a lot of the critiques with this, but for me it's just not as big a deal. The Sinnoh League semi-finals, Ash versus Tobias, everyone hates it. I don't. Personally, I think Tobias was unique enough to make things more interesting. Ash's final goal in Sinnoh was Paul. They focused so hard on that rivalry, and that's why it was the best written rivalry in the series. And rather than just some generic Joe Schmo who beats Ash in the semis, they set up this edgelord dude who has a Darkrai. I mean, what's the problem? Did people really want another Harrison or Tyson? I was bored of Ash losing to these new friendly rivals that he meets before every league. I thought Tobias was built up throughout the league really cool and really menacing. And we got a great battle where Pikachu takes down Latios. I understand why this one can rub people the wrong way, but Ash was never going to win the Sinnoh League. That wasn't being set up. His final win was always going to be against Paul, so this one for me was fine. So Iris and Cilan, I remember when these both got introduced after Brock and Dawn, people weren't happy. They hated Iris for always calling Ash a kid, and they called Cilan a rip-off of Brock. I think opinion has changed on them over the years, and Black and White is one of them series that has aged a bit like a fine wine. I think we can appreciate it the longer it's been. For me, Iris and Cilan absolutely carried this series. They were fantastic companions. Iris had so many focused episodes and development that pushed her character to grow. It was unique because she wasn't in contests, but she still had so many episodes focusing on her becoming a Dragon Master. And then Cilan was just funny, smart, and brought so many fresh ideas to the series. For me, Ash was treated poorly in Black and White, but his two buddies here got him back on his feet. Sticking with Black and White, we have Ash versus Elesa, and this battle is hated. It's brought up so many times to criticise Black and White, and rightfully so. However, I don't think it's as bad as people make out. For me, the Snivy loss and the first gym loss to Pampor are way worse than this. Ash was acting out of character, but I often compare this to Jaden versus Zane in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, where Jaden tries to use his head to win the battle rather than his heart, and although it was done way better in GX, that was what they were going for here with Ash. Anyone who's competed in sports or general competition knows that you can overthink things, and Ash just went in with the wrong mindset. So I think the idea is really good, but the execution not so much. Also love Pikachu in this episode snapping Ash back to his old self. Alright, we're into the Kalos League, so I'm prepared for the angry comments. The Kalos League finals, Ash versus Alain. Everyone was rooting for our boy. He's finally going to win his first league. He didn't. The world rioted, everyone was devastated, and for me, it was the right choice. I don't think making Ash win this competition would have changed much. He still would have gone to Alola, he still probably would have carried on. This was the strongest he'd ever been, and we got a fantastic battle out of it, and a fantastic series. Do we really need the trophy just to justify all that? I don't think so. I get people's points though, it would have felt earned. You compare it to something like Journey's and Ash's Pokemon World Championship win, that doesn't feel as earned as the Kalos League would have felt. But I just think it wasn't the right time, and I'm glad they did it because he got to win in Alola, a region that was a second home to Ash, so it let us have that special moment instead. From one big controversy to another, Greninja leaving Ash wasn't a big deal for me. I think it was cheap from the writers, yes, it could have definitely been written better, but I think they did it because they knew as long as Greninja was still with Ash or at the lab, fans would constantly ask for it to return every single week. I mean, they did anyway, even though it was released. But you'd always have that question of why doesn't Ash just bring it back for every battle, because Greninja was OP as hell. And technically it's still Ash's, who cares if it's at the lab or in the forest in Kalos. We also got a great Journeys episode out of it where it was cool as hell, so I don't really think it made that much of a difference, and people make out that it just ruined XY's ending, which is completely absurd to me. On to Alola, and honestly there isn't many. I'd maybe say still to this day that I wish the art style didn't change, but I can't really say that's a hot take. I'm sure many would agree. I think we could have got the same vibe with more of a consistent art style to what came before, more like the Journeys art style for instance. But the real hot take here is that I do not care that Incineroar never battled again. I thought that it evolving and beating Kukui's Incineroar was just so poetic and such a fantastic way to end its character arc. I had no need to see this Pokemon in battle again. I know it came back in Journeys and barely did anything. Sure, it would have been cool to see it in an official battle going full out, but for me I like that it's just that piece in Alola, it overcame its rival and now it's resting. There's something really special about that. Finally onto Journeys, and maybe this isn't majorly hot, but I've definitely seen people saying that Iris's return in Journeys was unearned and she shouldn't have been a champion, which I disagree. Sure, I'd love to have seen more of her progression, but she definitely had it in her to become champion. She was strong, she had a great character development, amazing Pokemon, and I loved her return in Journeys, and the battle against Cynthia was so good. And then we have another return in Journeys, which I'm the complete opposite of. Paul, everyone says how great his return was. For me, it's mediocre. I love Paul, I'm the guy's biggest fan. Diamond and Pearl is my favourite series because of that rivalry, and I think they botched his character here. He just felt off to me. He felt out of character, he was barely talking, which isn't like Paul. He randomly shows up with a bunch of Master 8 champion Pokemon to try and mimic how they battle to help Ash. I don't know, it just felt really forced, and Paul is sacred. He is written in such a specific way, how he interacts, how he talks with Ash, and I just don't think they got the tone right with him. It wasn't terrible, but it was no way near as good as people make it out. Alright, a quick bonus one to finish off this video. Ash leaving the Pokemon anime is a positive move for the series. He needed to move on. I know it was sad and we will all miss him. It's not the same without him, but it's something different, and Horizons has been fantastic. So much fun, and if you're someone who stopped watching solely because of Ash, I just implore you to give Horizons a chance. You won't be disappointed. But that's it for this one. Let me know what you think about these hot takes. Shout at me all you want in the comments. And of course, give me some of your mind-boggling takes as well. But that's it for now. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed. And I'll see you next time.